All right, hello, folks, and welcome to episode 29, working on the Song Themes app. How's it going, Mike?
Doing well, doing well. We're almost at the end of our fundraiser on the radio station, so it's been
Oh,
a fun. Today's day 8, so we're doing 9 days. So
nice.
it's super fun, but also exhausting.
Yes, I
And
imagine so. So last time we finally got to start working on persistence, not the database portion yet. I think we will be getting to that pretty quickly. But we basically had done some work around some refactoring. So let me show sort of diagrammatically what we've been doing. So
cool.
over here. So previously we had so this is our hexagon for those of you who are not too familiar with it. Inside here is our domain. And what we started out with was basically no persistence. So this stuff wasn't there at all. And Song Searcher actually held on to all of the songs as they were added through the UI. But what we've been doing is basically extracting a song repository, so a port in the ports and adapters architecture. And we refactored that code into turning what was basically an in-memory cache for it into an in-memory repository. And what we'll probably get to today is then implement a real database adapter that will talk to PostScript, not PostScript, Postgres. PostScript is something completely different.
And a little bit old. Well, so is Postgres, but
Yeah. I remember I took an independent study class, it was an honors elective class in typesetting languages. So PostScript was one of them.
Wow.
That's just really interesting. Xerox had their own language, which clearly did not succeed. I think it was called Interleaf. And there was one other. Anyway, nothing to do with printing. We're going to use Postgres. Clearly, I have not had enough coffee this morning. And so this was our line of refactoring, and I this is something that I really think not a lot of people understand, the idea that refactoring is against a boundary. So, for example, our adapter didn't change, and the behavior against the adapter didn't change. The song service didn't change because it's still talking to things. It's what's below the line between song service and the domain and other parts. That's what's changed. And so we didn't have to fix a whole lot, but we'll sort of see where we're at. And one of the things we'll start seeing is now we have these outbound adapters, and we'll start seeing we'll start clarifying that, oh, well, in order to do these use case layer tests, we will now have to have this test double. This fake in-memory adapter will be our test double. And that's the nature of the different kinds of tests. So one thing I talk about with testable architecture is your domain layer tests, you never use test doubles because you don't need them, because there's no I/O. It's just domain objects. But when you get to use case layer tests, you will need test doubles, but you will also be able to substitute in the real thing. And those tests should actually work in exactly the same way. They will just be slightly slower because you're using the real thing. But that's one of the really interesting things about these use case layer tests. And this is what people often say, oh, I don't need to write lower level tests. I'm just going to write integration tests. So they call these sort of integration tests. And yes, you could actually go quite far with those kinds of tests, but you're going to miss out on stuff in the domain, important things in the domain that are just more annoying to test at this level, especially when you get into things like constraints and pushing things into a specific state. I think it just gets really awkward to do it at that level. Anyway, so that's sort of a quick intro of sort of what our design is, where we're at, So why don't we switch over to your screen and we can look at the code and see where we are at.
Okay. Actually, I realized we could probably check off this Jira at 62. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, we still have that dependent column thing that
Right. I was wondering, is the dependent column thing part of
separate.
skipping?
Yeah, I think that's separate.
Yeah.
I think all of that was about having a header row and required columns and things like
Right.
that. Basically, the data being linked to the header rows, and that's all done.
Yeah. Okay. So that means we're skipping that. We're skipping this.
Yep.
We even have a thing for is.
So I think we're on 88. And we were going to figure out what that meant.
Ah.
So let's run all the tests just to see where we are,
Where
see
we're
if we
at.
have any failing tests.
Yeah. Good point. And because it's all tests, it's a little bit slow. And they all pass.
All right, great. So let's take a look at our in-memory version, which you have at the bottom there. So we create the in-memory repository. We have a way of so we hold on to the songs, but we also index them. So that's our in-memory version. And let's go down to the next method. So that's just a static method to create. And so we've got different ways to create our in-memory. And so we see there on 43, we have our add, which overrides. So that means it's implementing our song repository port interface. So we've got the add, and then the related one below that is the find by theme. So one of the things that a real database does that is not perfectly emulated here is if we modify a song. Right, so this is what we sort of ended with last time. If we modify a song, if you scroll up to the field, to the map definition, so we have a list of songs. These are so both the list and the map are have object references. And that means that anywhere in the system where that song is changed, this in-memory song repository will see that change. That's not how databases work.
Right.
If we change something in memory, the database doesn't magically get updated, although things like Hibernate try to sort of kind of do that. Although that's a separate issue about whether it should or not. But that's not real database behavior. Now, if generally though, right, at least at this point, songs are immutable. We don't currently have a way, because we haven't got to the functionality around song proposals and changing songs. We don't actually have a way to change them because we've defined it as a record. And so records are immutable. And so that means this isn't a concern yet. This will be a concern later. So when we do update songs and change them, we'll have to figure out, what do we want to do with our in-memory copy? Do we want to convert it to a mutable, basically a mutable entity, or do we want to do something else?
And
We'll have to
which
see.
part would you want to make immutable? The because if it's a list of songs and the song itself is an immutable record,
Hmm.
would we then also make the list of songs immutable such that it forces a, no, that won't do it. Never mind. That would force you to not change the list, or you'd have to rebuild the list entirely.
Yeah. So what the issue is here is if a song changes,
It'll just,
we need to be able to explicitly save it,
right.
um, so that it flows through into the database, and the database tables get updated. Um,
So we'd have to make a version of song that, maybe not a version of song, but because it's immutable, we'd have to basically replace the reference to the first song with a new song.
right. And so currently we only have an add method that assumes that it's a new song. We
Right,
do not have a save method,
right.
which would or an update method, which would update an existing song. So probably this is okay for now. Uh, when we get to sort of modifying songs, um, it's really interesting because is song an entity? Yes, in fact, it's an aggregate based on how we defined it in our initial event storming and such. Um, but how that's structured in memory, it doesn't have to itself be mutable.
Right.
Because we can basically say, let's create a new record based on this other record making these changes. And in fact, that would be much easier with what are called wither methods that are proposed for future versions of Java to
Hmm.
make exactly that process easier. Um, but it's not terribly hard to create a new, basically a modified song, and so we'd end up with a different object,
Right. A new object
right?
entirely.
And so
Does,
if
sorry, keep
we
going.
so the only thing that would remain the same is it would have to hold on to an identifier, and that's something we're going to have to do.
Ah,
Um, yeah, basically that's what. So we basically have uh, some kind of probably be methods on song that would say, you know, um, depending on what we allow to modify, I guess anything might
or
have to have
maybe,
this might have to have a separate factory.
yeah, I was thinking like a factory that would take one song as, take the current song as the baseline, or duplicate it with these changes,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
along those lines.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So that that we can basically say, well, we don't need that right now, and so we can kick that can down the road. Um, and because so this issue of the in-memory version holding on to references is only a problem if song were not a record and were actually mutable, because it's then the object reference itself, the content is changing. But in this case, it can't change, and if we just even if we decide that or even when we get to being able to modify songs, we may still decide that actually immutable is nice. In which case, we would need to just provide a save or update method on our repository.
Right.
Um, so either way, we may not have to modify our in memory at all. Um, what we will have to figure out is how do we want to persist this song in the database, and we'll be getting to that.
That's where the ID comes in.
Well, it's more that's where if we're going to use an ORM like Spring Data JDBC, we will need an object that is defined using the ORM annotations. And we, by rule, or at least very strong guideline in hexagonal ports and adapters, we don't do that on our domain objects.
Right. And song's a domain object.
And song is a domain object. Yeah. At some point, I'm going to take a note. I want to add the coloring to the project because that makes it easier to see what's in the domain versus application. So
Well,
coloring.
it's an IntelliJ config.
Yeah, it's a project-based configuration. So we'll do that at some point, or I'll do that offline. So let me make a note of that.
Actually, you know, we could plan to do it in a future stream because I think people might be. I know I'd be interested in how you do it.
I already have.
Tedious?
It's a little tedious, and I have a whole video on YouTube on how to do that.
Awesome.
So I'll throw a reference into that in a bit. So I think we can defer Jira 88, and we may not have to do much with that at all, even later on. So we'll have more information, and then we'll be able to decide what we want to do there.
Do we go straight to implement JDBC adapter, or is there an intermediate step we should put in here?
So let's take a look at our repository interface, our song repository interface. So we've got add and find by theme. I think that's good enough.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we can basically implement our JDBC adapter. So let's oh, so I just one last note on what we're deferring with Jira 88. If again, if song were mutable, and if there was more if there's sort of more behavior, then we might switch to a different mechanism for storing information in a database, what I call the snapshot pattern. So instead of, because right now song is really, there's no behavior there. It's pretty much just attributes, properties,
like attributes and validation, right?
Yeah, we have some validation, so that's all the behavior that we really have. If you want to call that behavior, I don't really call it behavior, but basically it's just attributes. And so there's no need to have a separate object that just holds the data, because it's pretty much only data already.
Right.
If there was a lot of behavior, and if there's a lot of complex state that was hard to access, then you basically have a snapshot pattern where you ask the object, give me a snapshot of your data. And then you're able to easily then restore that object from that snapshot. But here there's no need for that, because it's very easy to access all the data. There's, it gets harder when some of the fields are private and not directly accessible. Like they might be used for behavior, but you can't easily observe them.
Would the snapshot, that part of the snapshot pattern be implemented in the concrete adapter, or the repository?
So the repository would only store snapshots. It would never store domain objects.
Gotcha. So something in between the domain level song and the repository would be creating the snapshot and saying, here, repository, this is the snapshot to use.
Yeah, in fact, it would be the domain object itself that that provides the snapshot. And this is another case where you'd want only persistence to access that snapshot method.
Right.
Because nobody else, because if you ask for that, you're basically getting all the inside data that's supposed to be private and encapsulated. And so you don't want to just allow any method to access that. The repository needs it because it needs to store just the data.
Right.
But no other code should access that method.
Would we enforce that with ArcUnit?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it feels a little bit like you're leaking from the domain a teensy bit.
You are not a little bit, a whole lot, and it could be a problem. And so
That's
pretty
why
much
you enforce it with
yeah,
ArcUnit.
you don't want to do it. So just wanted to actually show an example
Oh, cool.
of the snapshot pattern. Yeah, let me switch to my screen. So this is from oops, bump this up a bit. So this is from my Ensembler application. This is the member. This is the represents members in the application in the system. It's the aggregate root, and so it's got a bunch of data. Not all of it is easily accessible because it shouldn't be. And so we basically have two methods. We have the reconstitute method, which is this one. And again, this is only used to reconstitute the data from the database. So given a snapshot, we can now instantiate a member. And so it basically grabs all that information. And then there's the symmetrical, give me a snapshot somewhere. There it is. Give me a snapshot of the data that's inside. And so we basically package up all of our fields and then return a member snapshot. And then that is stored in the database. And there are a couple of nice things about this. One is you don't have to do all sorts of weird stuff to get the state out of this thing. You don't have to expose it in any, it's a much more stable way of exposing it. The other nice thing is the snapshot then is easily copied over to whatever form you want to copy into save into the database. So it provides it's a little bit more work, but also provides a nice level of decoupling.
And it's typically called Memento when you're creating.
That was my original name for it. I now call it Snapshot.
Ah.
So there is a Memento pattern, but it's not quite the same thing. And so I started with the Memento name, but now I call it Snapshot.
Gotcha. I was wondering. Yeah.
I should probably rename that. And so just as an example of what an in-memory version would look like to deal with if the objects are changing out underneath, we basically, when we save it, we basically make a copy of it before we save it internally. So it's a little bit of work, but so basically create a copy of the memento, and then we basically manufacture a new one, and that's what gets returned. So that way, it's acting much more like if you didn't save it, we won't see that change.
Right.
So acting very, very much more like the database. But again, since our song object doesn't have any, since it's immutable and it doesn't have any other things that make it difficult to access the properties, we can just not use. And so, again, this is one of those cases where it's like, in a lot of cases, if you have an entity that's mutable and has a fair amount of behavior and state that's hard to get at, then you'd want to use the snapshot pattern, but only use it if you need it. You don't always use it.
Don't overuse patterns.
Yeah, don't overuse guidelines and patterns. Yeah. All right, so let's go back to song themes.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think we can implement our JDBC adapter. So let's sketch out the steps for this.
Sketching.
So the first thing we'll need is get all our database dependencies added, because I don't know if we have all of those. And since we're, we don't have to at this point, but we may as well use Flyway for our database management migration, because eventually we will be migrating, be updating the schemas in our database. So may as well start.
Start using it right away.
Yes, it's always good to use it right up front. And then create the schema. I guess that could be part of the use Flyway, because we create the schema in the context of a Flyway setup. And then so what I tend to do is then once we have the schema, we need to create the database object that represents that in memory.
The schema in memory?
Yeah. So this is what we'll annotate with the various ORM annotations. And
we'll annotate
in
with
the Department of Redundancy department.
Exactly.
And so once we have that, we'll write a couple of tests just to make sure that we're reading and writing the table correctly. And then we will write our adapter that implements song repository. Yep. And then we will modify our use case layer tests to also be able to use the concrete database adapter. So as I mentioned before, when I was going over the design, we should be able to run the same tests against the test double, and those tests should also pass running against the real database.
So would we set it up to run against both? To make sure that we're always somehow we don't have some divergent behavior.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey there, Tone Fam Ben.
Howdy.
So let's see. So once we have that, then we need to wire it up to the application. So wire up the concrete database adapter to the application. And I think that's it.
Run the application.
I didn't think we needed that as a step.
No. We haven't done it in a while though.
That's true.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, we'll see how far we get.
All right, so let's add our dependencies.
POM file.
Yep.
Where are we looking?
So let's scroll down and see if we have anything.
Oops, sorry. I don't know how I did that.
Let's scroll down and see what dependencies we've got.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna want that one that's commented out. What else we got? And yes, we're gonna want the Docker compose. And we're gonna want the Postgres. We've already got our test containers, so that's good.
And that coloring means what?
The coloring means there's some CVE reported. If you hover over the orange,
Maybe over here.
no, you'd have to hover over. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not working for
maybe
you.
the orange on the right. There it is.
Yeah, so there's some CVEs reported against something that it depends on that test containers may or may not use. This is always the problem of bringing in libraries like Apache Commons that has 180 different things. There's always CVEs being reported against all sorts of stuff, so I generally ignore that. If you want, you can explicitly tell it to ignore it if it bothers you. But
doesn't bother me. I was just curious.
We don't care. Let's keep going. Anything else? So we've already got Postgres. We've got all security stuff. I think the only other thing we need. Did we pull in Flyway? I don't think we did.
I think we thought about it, but
yeah, I think we explicitly pulled it out because otherwise it does some stuff that we didn't want it to do. So if you scroll all the way to the top of this section of the dependencies section, you'll see an edit starters. So click on that. Let's go down to yep, and yep, and then yep. And
does it put it at the end? I'm always curious how that.
Yeah, I don't know where it puts it. Yeah, I guess it puts it at the end.
Looks like it puts it at the end. Yeah. And then you were saying.
I'm just thinking. I think that's all we need.
So technically, if we run all tests, nothing should break.
Well, maybe. We can try it.
Does that mean? I'm curious.
I'm not sure if the database stuff, now that Flyway's in there, is going to do something that might cause because we don't have any configurations around some stuff.
So it might. So should I run it or not? Bother?
Well, run it because let's see what's going on.
Yeah. Yep, startup test failed.
Yeah, I kind of figured the startup test would fail, mainly because it couldn't find the configuration. So if we scroll down a bit more, keep going. Yeah. So basically, that's interesting. Let's scroll down more. So why couldn't it find? Probably something database specific. Oh, hold on. Yeah, keep going. So basically, you want to sort of jump from caused by to caused by. So that one, that's fine. So go to the next caused by. That's fine. Keep going. Yeah, so that's the real reason, is basically it couldn't find a data source, and that's to be expected because we don't have a data source.
Right.
So let's go create a data source.
Okay.
So what we need to do is we need to create a Docker compose file. So what we're going to do, I think we already have one. If you go to the compose YAML, what have we got there? It's all the way
this one.
Yeah. So we've already got that. Let's make a couple of changes here.
Okay.
let's change our image from to a specific version. So instead of latest, let's do 15-alpine.
Lowercase a,
Yeah,
like that?
right. Yeah,
Oh,
and we can see it's already available.
yeah, cool.
So what this says is we want the latest 15 version. And the reason why I'm using 15 is I'm not sure if our hosting site has 16 yet. And so 15 is more than good enough for what we need. And Alpine is just a smaller image. The ports we need to expose, I don't know why the default compose doesn't do this, but if you go to line 9, put inside the single quote, put colon, and then 5432. Without the
Like
one.
that?
Yes. So what this does is it says inside the container that's going to be running Postgres, connect that port 5432, which is Postgres's default port, and expose it outside the container also as 5432. If you don't put the colon 5432, then it's not exposed externally, and it's therefore kind of useless. I see a question Charles has. Do I recommend things like NeoVim for Java development? No, I do not. I recommend IntelliJ IDEA. 100%, no questions. I can't think of a reason why you'd use anything else. Unless you like typing a lot of stuff manually and doing manual refactoring. So if you like doing things manually, then sure. But really, in my opinion, why would you not use the most powerful tool that exists? If you like the VI bindings, you can install key maps and a plugin for that. And I know people who do that. But otherwise, I don't know why you wouldn't want to use IntelliJ IDEA. All right, so let's also fix some of the settings for the Postgres. Let's change my database to song themes.
Hyphenated?
No.
Like that? I guess what I meant was kebab case.
No, I don't like to. There's no reason to have that, and I don't know if it's even allowed. So therefore, let's.
No, I'm totally cool with it. I just wasn't sure if there was a convention.
And let's just put password user just because it's easy to remember, and these are always going to be replaced at runtime on the host by more secure values. All right. Hey, Exabyte. Yeah, a long time no see. Welcome back. Yeah, if he also says, I mean, I really like, I see folks who use Eclipse, and I understand that because they might have been using it for a while, or they might be in a situation where that's what they had. But really, once you try IntelliJ, I don't know anyone who said, I tried IntelliJ and I went back to VS Code. I don't know anybody who's ever done that, who tried it seriously. VS Code and other things are great for some things, but not for Java.
And I did a lot of Microsoft development, and I'm a total IntelliJ fan. So did lots of Visual Studio for decades. IntelliJ is just like so much better.
So let's go to the application properties. Do we have an application properties? That would be under resources up there.
Sorry, I was getting distracted by the text message. Resources.
So in the project window, go up a few to resources.
Got resources.
And let's open up both properties and YAML. It's really bad that we have both. Right. I remember we did the YAML because that was easier for the OAuth stuff. I guess that's fine. We can leave that. All right. So let's go back to our properties.
So I can close YAML.
Yeah, you can close the YAML. Let's see. So what do we want for this? We need to set up our data source. Do we want to do that here? Yeah, we do want to do that here. So let's create a blank line, and then we'll do spring.dataSource. Yep, and then .username.
Well, if I do dot here, will it fill it out?
Yes, it will.
Sweet.
And we'll use our username, which I believe was user.
Yeah.
And then spring.dataSource.password. So you can do the same thing. Yep, that was password. And then spring.dataSource.url.
I am the crappiest typing today.
Yep. And that's going to be JDBC : and then PostgreSQL, all one word, all lowercase, and then colon, and then the name of our database, which I think was Song Themes. Yeah, that's all good. And then we need, just to be sure, let's do Spring Data Source driver class name. Yep, that one. That's going to be, just hit enter. Yep. And I think that's all we need. So let's try running the startup tests, because those are the only ones that were failing. Yeah, you can just rerun those. Those won't work because those are running tests. That's fine. This is something that did I file a documentation issue on this? So what happens is we set up the Docker Compose, but Docker Compose only automatically starts the container when you're running the application. Otherwise, it's going to defer to using test containers for. It's going to basically say you should be using your test containers for your tests. So let's see. Let's go to the startup test.
Yep. Which one?
Just the class. We want to go to the code, the test.
Yeah,
code.
I know. My mouse is acting up.
Oh,
even when it's plugged in.
That's a bummer.
Is it? I mean, I wonder if it's the GPU. I'm gonna try and get over to. It usually goes away if it's the GPU being active. Yeah, see, in that case, I got a GPU spike for some reason. And now it's back to normal. Yeah, I don't know what the root cause of that is, but it does happen once in a while.
I hate that stuff.
Really annoying. Okay, so now if I click here, doesn't it jump to the? There we go.
So let's I wonder if we just want to disable these tests for now. because they're not really serving any purpose. I think that second test is not going to make sense anymore once we have the database. So I think let's
Disable both or the whole class?
I think let's just comment out line 14 so it doesn't even actually and we might have to disable the whole thing. Can we disable it at this level? I think maybe we can.
I've always wondered that. That's why I asked. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
you
I
disable
don't
at the
know.
class level.
I guess so. If you hit Control Q on that, so target is also available on type. Okay, so we can do that.
So if we run all now,
If we run all now, it should not run. Yeah.
should skip that. Then we should be back to passing.
Right.
Back to green.
Excellent. So let's do a commit. And mainly what we did was add our database dependencies.
Okay, commit.
Yeah, it's really confusing. If you start, if you create a new Spring Boot project with Docker Compose and databases and test containers, out of the box, the project you will get, the test will fail, which is really kind of annoying. Because, and there's a way to do it by doing something that I think is just, it's a workaround and it kind of works. But anyway, I just think it's confusing. So there actually are a couple of open issues against that. So hopefully that'll be fixed. All right, so let's go back to Jira and see where we're at. I think we can check that off. All right, so let's go create our schema. So what we want to do is in the resources directory in our project, main resources, there is a DB migration, which is currently empty. So what we want to do is create a new, this will be a new, oh, you don't have one set up. So we'll just say new file. And this will be our SQL file. So we're going to call this as, so the way Flyway works is you create versions of your schema. And so what it does is the typical naming pattern is V1, V2, V3, V4, and so on. And what Flywheel will do is apply those schemas based on where the database is. And so it has a separate table that it keeps track of what version have I updated to. So like in my ensembler, I've got 13 of these. And so on a new database, it's going to basically sequentially run all of the schema creation.
I see.
If it was at 12, because I just added 13, then it'll just apply 13. So the naming convention is we'll use V, uppercase V, and then number 1, and then double underscore. And we'll just call this song, so all lowercase, song underscore entity .sql. So basically, we're going to create the song entity table.
Got it.
All right.
So yeah,
change the dialect, and you can change the project dialect to PostgreSQL.
Okay. And okay.
Yeah. And you can close that notification at the lower right.
Oh yeah, I find that they just linger.
There is, I think, a way you can tell it to not do that. if you hit the 3 vertical dots.
Oh, too late. Sorry.
Or not. Next time. I think there's a way to make that one. There's a way to configure the different notifications so that they pop up and then go away versus pop up and stay. Because of course you can configure everything. That's why the settings thing has 150 different items. Actually, probably more. Okay, so let's go write some SQL. Technically, this is DDL, not SQL, but whatever. So we'll do create table, and you should get some autocomplete for that. Yep. And we'll call this songs. So I tend to name my tables lowercase. And then on a new line, we'll do an open paren. And then new line. So first we'll want the identifier. So ID. Lowercase. Yeah, so everything here is lowercase. All the identifiers are lowercase.
Got it.
And then tab. So this will be serial. And since these are keywords, I do these as uppercase. And then a space, and then primary key. Yep. And then not null. Yep. And then comma and new line. And now we can start filling out all the stuff that we have in song below. So it'll be artist, text, not null.
Oh, again, you had tab.
Yeah, I just use tabs because basically to line up all of the definitions.
So do it like this?
Yeah, something like that. You'll probably want one more tab once we add other stuff.
Right, true.
But you can fix that up later. So we got, yep.
Now this, do we mix cases or?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Actually, no, sorry. You can do it, but I think it's easier if we do snake case. So what happens is Spring Data will automatically do some conversions. So it will convert snake case into camel case for us.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
And so that basically makes it so that you don't have to worry about case sensitivity and database schemas and things like that. Yeah, so that'll be not null.
That space comma is going to drive me crazy, but that's what the auto completion is doing.
That's only because you're letting it do that. But that's not what it should be. So you can fix it up now or later. You can do an auto format and see if it takes it away. It probably won't take away those spaces.
Control Alt L.
Yep. Look at that, it did it, and it lined everything up too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So now you can just relax. Let it do the auto formatting.
Release snake case.
Right.
Not kebab. Title. Text. And release type.
Yep.
It's funny, it never auto-completes text.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't autocomplete text. It's not like text is some super modern thing that's been around for a while, so I don't understand it.
And so what are we going to do about themes?
Aha. Okay. So what we're going to do about themes is store it in an array. So you'll do themes, and it'll be text with an open, close, square bracket. And then not null. And that's it.
No comma here?
No comma there because we're done defining stuff. And then we'll want a semicolon. You can delete the blank lines. Yep. We'll want a semicolon after 9.
Oh, after 9. Or you meant?
Sorry, I meant at the end of 9. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
If I wanted, then I would have said 9.5, I guess. So that's our schema. So it's really straightforward for for those who've done any kind of database schemas, we've got our ID. The ID will be assigned by the database, and that's why we have serial there. And it is the primary key. And we're basically saying that nothing should be null. Some stuff might be
Blank.
blank, yes, but not null, not null. Is what we want no nulls. It's interesting that auto
I'm wondering about that too. Like,
reformat didn't push the
so
not null
if I
there.
do this, it still doesn't do it.
Huh.
I wonder if it's because of the array.
I think it's because of the array. Yeah. It doesn't know how to parse it, I guess. That's a bummer.
Now if I reformat, it's going to put it back.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like
Another bug submission.
a bug. So doesn't understand text nor text array. All right.
Top of hour. Maybe take a quick break.
Oh yeah, this is actually a good time for a break. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will do whatever's next in Jira.
Cool.
All right. So I'll set the timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes it is.
And we'll see you all in 5 minutes. Hey there, 5G technician. Shout out to Java. Little commercial message. You may be familiar with my TDD game. If you haven't already heard about it, it's a fun game that basically lets you. First of all, it's great as a game on its own. One of the things it does is help you understand the test-driven development process. It's great to play with your colleagues. Provides lots of opportunity for not only just having fun, but also exploring and discussing what is test-driven development, what are the benefits of it, what's the process. And so if you go to tdd.cards, there's a video here that will where I basically talk about predictive test-driven development. So all the stuff we do both on the pairing stream and on my solo stream, where we do TDD, but with that first step of what is the test going to do, how is it going to fail, or if it's going to pass, and being very precise about those predictions. I talk about this in this talk that I did for the Agile Lunch and Learn folks, and then I dive into the game. And I just got a new shipment of games, so I'm well stocked. Go ahead, check out td.cards. I'm also every conference I go to, I bring a copy with me. So if you find me at a conference, especially open space, come find me and we'll play the game. It is a physical game. It's custom manufactured. That doesn't work for everyone because we've got a lot of folks who are working remote. And so one of my next projects that I'll be doing on stream, on my solo stream, is working on an online version of the game. So I actually started an online version of the game a couple of years ago, actually probably over 3 years ago, where the front end was done in Vue. If you know anything about JavaScript frameworks, you know that trying to build something that's 3 years old and get it working is not fun. So I basically want to trash the front end and use HTMX in cooperation with WebSockets. So basically, a lot of the stuff that I learned doing the timer stuff for Ensembler, I'm going to apply to the online game. So stay tuned for that. So check out tdd.cards if you're interested in the game. And that's it. As I say,
Not to be,
and now back to our show.
yeah, it turned out to be cold here. I left the
Yeah,
office.
it got warm for a couple of days. Like,
Yeah.
I was running and I was like, oh man, this is so, why am I running at noon and it's like 72 degrees, which is, some people might say that's not hot, but for Bay Area, it's hot.
Yeah.
So hey 5G technician,
Hey,
and Jonas Brownhounds, welcome.
wow. And hi to Exabyte for in Mumbai.
Yes.
From an earlier comment.
Yeah. All right. So we've got our schema. What was our next step? I think our next
you said
step.
Jira.
So we created the schema. So what we can do is run the application just to get it to start up. Because what we want it to do is we want to see it bring up the Docker Compose, which will bring up the post, basically start the container, start Postgres, connect to it. Flyway, we should see some messages from Flyway that will basically say, upgrading or migrating schema or whatever message it says. And then we should be able to connect using IntelliJ, connect to the database and see that the schema has been properly created.
Okay.
So let's do it.
Fire away.
Well, do you have Docker running?
I don't recall if we set it up on this or not.
Oh, do you have Docker installed?
On this computer?
Yes.
Docker desktop. Yes, I do.
All right, so it's yeah. So let's get it running. All righty.
This good enough, or do I need to do?
That should be fine.
Okay.
At some point, you'll want to upgrade it, but not now.
So rerun.
Yep. Yeah, Flyway. So your choices in migration are Flyway or Liquibase. Those are the two popular ones. They're both fine. I'm just familiar with Flyway. So great. So that's working. So what it's doing is it's downloading the Postgres image. So we see pull complete, which means the pull from the image was complete. And then it's, if you want to scroll back, we can sort of read through what it was doing. Yeah, so pulled the layers, so all that stuff, Docker CLI, we can skip past. That won't happen every time because now it's on your machine.
Right.
All right, and then we see bootstrapping our JDBC repositories, Tomcat starts. We see more MVC stuff, web stuff. Let's keep going. There's our Flyway. So right there, our Flyway Community Edition. And it connected to the database, and schema history does not exist. So it's going to successfully validated one migration. So that means it basically said, huh, I've never seen this database before. Let me start from scratch. And so it validated one migration, created a schema history in its own table. Mike actually did the migration to version 1 song entity, successfully applied. So it's all good. And so now the database is up and running, so we can actually connect to it. Hey there, Grok. Welcome.
Hey, Grok. Great spelling.
So Jonas asks how easy it is to get into using Flyway towards an existing database. Really easy. What you basically do is you take whatever thing generates whatever SQL you have to generate your current schema, and that becomes your V1 file. And so that's your baseline. And then any future migrations, you will create separate SQL files. But you basically establish your current schema as the baseline, and then Flyway will and there's a parameter you might have to run to get Flyway to say, oh, the schema is already there. You run that once, it builds that separate Flyway schema history table, because that's what it uses to keep track of what Flyway migrations has it applied. And then once it sees that, then it knows, okay, V1, that baseline schema has been applied. If you run it against a new database, then it will just create the schema as you defined it. But once you establish that baseline, you can then use it from then on. So it's pretty straightforward to get started with it. So let's see. We want to go to. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like what's different about my IntelliJ setup than yours, where I have all sorts of things on the right side for tools that you do not have. What we want is we want the database inspector. And I just don't know where that is. So yeah, let's look for Database Explorer. So that's the toolbar. We don't want the toolbar. So we just want Database Explorer.
This one.
Yeah. Huh.
Do we do Shift Enter and it?
Yeah, let's do that. I don't know why it's not showing up in any of your toolbar stuff. All right. So what we want is we're going to create a new data source. And it's going to be that first one. localhost, user password. So yeah, so let's enter in our user password, which we know is user password.
Oh, right.
So that's the authentication type, and we want user password.
Right.
And the database we want is song themes. Yeah, hit test connection there at the bottom. It may have to, oh, it's all good. Succeeded. Look at that, it worked the first time. That never happens. So
Quick,
hit,
record this. Oh wait, we're recording it already.
Mark did this down. Hit the apply button. And now we can close it.
Will it then open the
I don't know.
toolbar?
I don't know.
Now it does. Let me see if there's a pin. Auto scroll, show toolbar, view mode. Dock pinned.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's pinned now.
Interesting.
So let's minimize the run window.
Yeah.
And you can, yep, open that up and then open up song themes and open up public. And if you open up tables, we should see two tables. We see our flyway schema history and we see our songs. So if you open up songs and then you open up columns, we should see all of the columns we defined, and we do. And so that's all good. So we verified that, even though unsurprising that worked, we verified that. Hey, live coding. Yes, it's basically the search anywhere. What we were looking for is why wasn't it a toolbar item already there when in all my installs of IntelliJ it's there. So I don't get it. And it's not listed as a tool.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
All right. It's there now. That's all that
Yep.
matters. Okay, so we verified you can close the current window because it basically opened up the console to the database. We don't need that. So I think we can check off 91, everything with flyways.
Jira 91 being closed.
Yeah. So now what we want to do is we want to create the database object that represents the schema in memory. So we're going to create a new class. If this were, so there's there used to be a plugin called I think it was called JPA Buddy, and then actually JetBrains bought it. So I think it's now available as sort of from JetBrains. The problem is it's JPA centric, which is really kind of annoying because there's a lot of overlap between JPA, Spring Data JPA, and Spring Data JDBC. Because actually, if you look at the structure of the Spring projects, there's actually Spring Data Relational, which is sort of the parent project for JPA and the JDBC and some other stuff. Because there's stuff that's in common. This idea of runtime generation of repositories and so on is the same across a lot of them. But unfortunately, because what we could do is we could point it at the schema and say, please create an object. But we'll have to do it manually. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So let's go. Let's go figure out where do we want to put this new class. So where do we want to put this class? So actually, I don't have a place for it.
We don't, right? So this would be adapter.out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, adapter.out .jdbc. So let's we can create a new class and do it all at once.
Oh, okay. Oh no, won't let me do it here.
Yeah, so you can basically put in a adapter.out and then the name of the class, or adapter.out.jdbc, and then the name of the class, which will be so the postfix that I usually use for these types of objects, which are basically the ORM database object, is DBO. So we can call this song DBO. Yep. And it's a class, so you can just hit enter. And voila, we've got our package and our class.
Sweet.
So let's start annotating this thing. So let's put an annotation there at table. Yep. And in parentheses, we're going to put the string songs.
What casing?
All lowercase. So this is matching the identifiers that we put in our schema definition.
Got it.
And can you remove that unnecessary space between table and the open paren?
Oh, that one. I'm like, where's the space? There you go.
All right. And so now inside our song DBO, we need to start putting in our, so first we'll start with our ID. So we need an annotation at, and then uppercase I, lowercase d. Double check the import. Yes, that's the correct import. Sometimes it pulls ID from other places, but that's the one we want. And this is going to be private uppercase long ID. Yep. And then we just need the rest of our data. So artist, yeah, all that stuff.
Private for everything?
Private for everything, yep.
And then we'll do an array instead of a list?
Nope, it's a list.
Oh, it'll...
Yeah, it'll do the smart thing.
Sweet. Do you usually do the annotation on line 10 separate from 11, or
Yes.
or should, and would you do this to make it?
Yeah, I might do that to make it
a
more
little
clear.
bit more?
Yeah. Okay. So we're using Spring Data JDBC. We're not using Spring Data JPA. So the annotations are slightly different. ID we still get from the same place, but you'll notice that we actually don't need a bunch of other annotations. So this should be all we need. So let's go and create sort of the boilerplate.
Okay.
So if you do 17 and a half, yeah, you can close that. And then I think it's Alt Insert for generate.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So let's generate a constructor and select all of those. I think you can just do Control A.
Oh, that's probably true. Yep.
And then we'll do a generate getter and setter also for all of them, even though it probably isn't necessary. It just may as well generate them. Yep. And we can generate a toString. And that's fine.
Yeah, interesting. It selected them all that time. Like by default, I didn't select it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So xproof asks about equals and hash code. So for a database object, honestly, we really don't care because it is a transient object that pretty much immediately gets copied over to real domain objects. And so this is not a long-lived object. This shouldn't really appear in anything. We could define, if we were to define an equals and hash code, which we might just to be sure, we would not use the standard generation because by definition, these entities, the only thing that matters is the ID. So let's go ahead and do that just to be safe. So let's generate an equals and hash code.
And by the way, I had the exact same question as xproof. Like, should we do? So thanks for asking.
Can you select a different template?
Oh, let me do it
No,
again.
on that screen.
Yeah.
IntelliJ default. Just leave everything else. Basically deselect everything but ID.
Saw that one coming.
Yep. It's by definition non-nulls. Is it always non-null when it's first created? No, it actually might be null. So, okay. Create.
Okay.
And it should be as expected. Yeah. So we'll need another constructor that has everything but the ID.
Does the constructor generation? Yeah, so it'd be that.
Right. All right. So that's it for the database object. Now we need our repository implementation. Did we have that in Jira? I know we had the adapter. I think we forgot about the. We got the database object. We have to have something to read or write it with. So we actually also need the repository. So if you want to add another item that we'll pretty quickly check off, go ahead. And so this would be create Spring Data JDBC repository.
Spring data.
They should just rename it Sping. I always typo that one as Sping.
Create Spring JDBC. Repository? Is that what you said?
Yeah, repository. Yeah.
Repository. Okay. So we're going to do that since this is the adapter. Be the application. Well, we got song repository here, so it would be.
So this is this is the concrete technology specific adapter.
Got it. Just because this is the interface, but then we have the concrete in memory here.
Right.
So
which we will probably move at some point to test code, but for now we can leave it there.
Right. So we would create it in this package, is what you're saying, under application.
Well, it is going to be Spring Data JDBC concrete specific. So where does code like that go?
Adapter then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It goes where the song DBO is. Right, because it's the repository that reads and writes
for that.
DBOs.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. What do we want to call it?
Let's call it. What is my?
And it needs to implement song repository.
No. This is not the adapter. This is the technology reading and writing. So this is going to be actually an interface. So new Java class, and it'll be an interface. And what I typically name it is song JDBC repository.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay.
So this interface will extend what the heck is it? I think we can use CRUD repository. So CRUD repository. Yeah. And so it takes two generic parameters. So the first one is the object that we're reading and writing.
So
so you'll open up an angle bracket here.
Okay.
And then the first type is the thing we're reading and writing.
Song DBO.
Mm-hmm. And then the second one is the primary key type.
Type. So we did it as, what was it? Was it long?
Yes.
Yeah, uppercase long. Like that.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's it for now. So what we can now do is write some tests that read and write the DBO and make sure that that's all working.
So those would be tests at the adapter.out layer.
Correct. Yes. So you can do an command Alt Shift T from where we are on the upper right.
Oh, I see. Got it. Control Alt. Oh, it's Alt Shift T. No, actually for me it's Control Shift T. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add that to my flashcards.
And then is it automatically going to put it in the right package? It is.
So what was that? That was
Control Shift T is go to test.
Go to test.
/ go to test subject, depending on which direction you're going. So is this good to go?
That's totally fine. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's some discussion in chat around equals and so on. If you want to test the contents of it, the assertion library AssertJ will help you with that, because you can have it avoid using the equals for comparison, and you can actually say things like test these properties recursively against, or recursively test all properties but ignore these, and things like that. So you have a lot of power for when you're comparing objects. You don't always have to use the equals methods in your test, and then it will give you good error messages if good failure messages if it doesn't work.
Did we answer about the at generated value?
Yes.
Annotation question? We did. Okay.
Yes. That was part of the this isn't Spring Data JPA.
Got it. Okay. So next.
All right. So we've got our test. So this test we need to do. We need to add an annotation to the test class, because this is a special kind of test, and this is an @data JDBC test. And in parentheses, we're going to need to do a couple of things. So we're going to basically define some properties. So say properties equals.
Lowercase?
Oh yeah, all lowercase. And then an open curly brace. And then let's hit a new line. And then so what we're doing here is we're overriding or defining Spring properties. So one of the things we want to do is, normally if you run data JDBC test, it's going to create its own database, often using H2. We don't want that. We want to use test containers. So what we say here is open a double quote, and we're going to say spring.test.database.replace equals, and then in uppercase the word none.
Do you put spaces around the equals?
So all uppercase. No space. So this is just like a properties definition. I mean, you could put space, but there's no point to it.
Right.
Outside that, put a comma, because we're going to define another property, and then open quotes. And so this is we're basically going to override the data source URL. So spring.datasource.url. I think all we need to do is this is one of the annoying things is like stuff around test containers and Spring Boot has changed a lot over the past year or so, and so like I'm always forgetting like what's the modern up-to-date way to do this. I think this is it. Let's try it. So we're going to say JDBC colon TC colon PostgreSQL colon what did we say? 15 is the one we're using. So 15 dash Alpine, lowercase a.
Really? I could have sworn.
No, it's lowercase.
Was it?
In the
Where was
application properties.
That was it. It's probably off screen.
No, sorry, in the compose, because it's a Docker image.
Ah. Oh, it was lowercase. Okay.
Yep.
My memory was bogus.
And then after Alpine colon, and then 3 slashes, Spring Boot, all lowercase, all one word. All right. So hopefully what this will do is it will start up test container. So a separate container, separate from the one that gets run when we run the application. And so we'll start it up for the duration of the test and then shut it down when the test is over.
And because it's at the class level, it would be for all the tests within this test class, I presume.
Yes.
Is it startup container, shutdown container between tests?
There's some ways you can optimize that. So if you have lots of tests that are basically using the database and don't interfere with each other, then you can sort of keep it up during the duration of all test execution.
Gotcha. So the default is it's created and torn down for every test.
For every at the test class level, yeah. The life cycle has changed a little bit, or is a bit. My memory might be faulty. We could look that up if we wanted to. So let's see. So got our test containers. We've got our database entity. We've got our Postgres container set up. I feel like there's something missing. Just want to double check. there were several different ways to do this, and it recently changed with what was called the service container setup. And so I want to see. No, this might work. Yeah, I think well, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. Okay. All right. So let's inside the test, line 12.
Yep.
We're going to auto wire the repository, the JDBC repository we just created.
And
Yep.
What do you want to call it?
We'll call it song JDBC repository.
Hey, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, we can use service connection, and I know that's sort of there's a newer way to do that. We'll try that after. I forget the exact syntax. I have to go find it because I now know 3 different ways to do this, and I'm trying to figure out which one is. But this one I think will work. This is the one that's actually documented on the test containers site. Yeah, if you want to throw a link in, I'll follow it and we'll take a look. Hey, Stupendous Follow. Yes, the project is publicly available. I'll throw a link in a second. All right, so we've got the AutoWire repository, and so now we can actually write a test. For now, let's just, yeah, JUnit 5. Can read and write DBO, because that's all we really care about. So we'll say song JDBC repository dot what? That's weird. I was surprised at the order of what it's showing. Like all the good stuff is not at the top. But I guess in your IntelliJ you don't use database as much, and so it's machine learning is saying I don't know what to propose here.
Is there machine learning on this?
Oh yeah, autocomplete has machine learning, and it's had that for years. Not AI, machine learning.
Right. It's
basically statistics.
per individual.
Yeah. So actually, before we can do a save, we actually need to create a DBO. So let's go and instantiate a DBO.
Ugh. And let's see, we got a, what do you think, 42?
Don't give it an ID. We want to call the second constructor because what we want is we want to create an ID when we save it.
Right, of course. Let me grab my spreadsheet to think about it.
Yeah, the latest update in IntelliJ Stupendous Follow is about the full line auto completion that uses more LLM type machine learning. But the autocomplete is always collected statistics on which autocomplete option you use, and it reorders things based on that, which may or may not be what you want, but usually it is. The model that it uses, the small model that it uses, is the newest thing for the full line autocompletion, which is new.
What am I missing? Not sure what that junk is.
I think you put the close on the next line.
That was it. That was, yeah. Nope.
Control-Shift-J.
Thank you. I was doing the wrong one. Control-Shift-J.
You're probably doing Control-J.
Yeah, there we go.
but you combine the wrong two lines.
That's too much. Yeah. Control Shift J. There we go.
There you go. All right, so now that we got one of those, now we can do song JWC repository.save. And then give it a song DBO. We'll assign the return value to another variable, and we'll call it saved DBO. And we can do something like assert that save.dbo.getID is not null.
Oh, interesting. It doesn't have assert that.
If you do AST and let it autocomplete, probably because you haven't imported it, so it doesn't see that it's an autocomplete.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're saying saved DBO.
Right. .getID. Because basically what we're checking is that the ID was assigned when we saved it, and then that should be not null. So when you have this autocomplete, you want that rectangle. You want to hit enter to get out of that rectangle to the next rectangle.
And it jumps to the next one. Got it.
Right.
And then we were saying not null.
Is not null. Yeah.
Wow, that was really far down.
Yeah. Guess you don't use it a lot. Yeah.
So can read and write DBO. I guess it seems general. In a way, we're saying, can we rewrite DBO and does the ID get assigned? Or is that too verbose?
We're gonna extend this test. So
okay.
we're gonna take the save DBO, modify it, and then write it back out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Run just this one?
Yeah, let's just run this test. Yeah, we may not have set up the service connection stuff.
Sorry, I'm scrolling. Did you want me to scroll?
Yeah, no. Let's I'm just looking at the so in the Spring Boot 3.1, that's when they changed the way test containers work. I think we need one more thing, but I think let's go to let's go to the more modern way of doing it. I see Jonas provided a. Okay, that's really annoying. Sorry, StreamYard doesn't allow me to easily select something that was posted in the comments. I have to go to my other comment window.
Really? It's easily selectable for me.
That's because I have the ability to
because you're the host.
To put the banner up, and so it overlays the entire thing, which it really shouldn't do. So let me just do this. All right, so let's go. Let's change our test stuff. So we can actually delete. Actually, before we delete that, let's just try one thing. So I think one thing we actually forgot to make this work. Let's add another annotation at 15.5. And this is going to be test containers. So we forgot that important thing, lowercase c for some reason.
Huh.
I don't know why they did that.
That is odd.
And now you can never change it. And we want to add a property. So open paren disabled should start auto completing it. Lowercase. Yeah, and that one. Yeah. So what this does is it says, don't bother running this test if no Docker is available.
Mm.
Let's try running the test again. So that looks good. We see test containers pulling the thing. So let's scroll down and see what what we're missing. Keep going.
Caused by.
Let's look for another caused by. It didn't like the URL.
I like that it says claims to not accept.
Yeah. Let's try one other thing, and then we'll go the service connection route. Let's go and in the property drop the -alpine. I don't know if that's causing it to drop the whole alpine.
Oh.
Yeah, so
like
just leave
that?
15. Yeah. So let's try that. If that doesn't work, we'll go a different route. I think we still, yeah. All right, so let's go the new way.
I'm just gonna quick pause. I want to make sure my son's awake because he has to go to his
all right
thing in a bit.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a flyway specific issue. It's that right. So what you often see when Spring Boot can't start up is can't instantiate this because of this and because of this, and it can't get flyway because it can't get the data source, and it can't get the data source because the driver says it's not accepting that URL. So it's just flyway is the one that requires the data source, but it's not a flyway specific thing. That's why you always have to look deep into the cause bys to find the actual root cause of the problem. All right, so let's drop line 15.
Okay.
And you can, I guess, get rid of the comma at the end. Yeah. Let's above, so 17 and a half. Let's do at container. And then on a new line, at service connection. And then on a new line, this is a static Postgres. So this is the name of a class. So it's uppercase P. You're going to want the autocomplete. So back up and type S.
Oops.
Nope.
That was too early. That's the one you wanted?
No.
Okay.
We want the container.
This one?
Yes.
SQL container.
And we'll generify it with a question mark. So generify means open angle bracket.
Yeah.
Okay. And the variable name we'll call Postgres container, or just Postgres actually is fine. That's fine. I don't know why they have SQL in uppercase. That's like just terrible. No, we need to instantiate it. So we need to say equals new and then Postgres. Yep. And then in the parens, we don't need generification. We don't need because it's already generified. We need double quotes, and this is going to be, I think, just 15-alpine. So I think this is the label for the image. Can you do a control Q? What? No documentation found.
Maybe here.
How about no, we need to know what the parameters are. Not, is it control P? What is show the parameters on Windows?
Control P.
Okay. So this is the Docker image name. Is it the full? I think it's the full name. So it's Postgres : before the 15. Yeah. That looks right. I don't know where it's going to get the properties from. But let's run this and see if we get a different error message. I think we might have to add the properties manually, but I think there's a way to get those from. Oh, all right.
Looks like it worked.
So let's see. So started process.
Do you want me to
Blah
scroll
blah
back up?
blah. Added connection. Yeah, that's all good. The test passed because clearly the ID was assigned. Otherwise, we would have gotten a failure.
Right.
All right. So let's add to our test. So let's change one of the items. So let's say save DBO dot.
Oh.
Because we want to modify the saved one.
Right.
And let's whatever set you want to do. Artist, title, song title.
Oh, I did song title. Yeah, sure, I'll do that
All right. Let's put a blank line above that just to make it clear there's a separate section. And let's now do let's save it again. So here we don't want to hold on to the return value. We just want to save it. And what we're going to do is do a find by to see that we can actually find it.
Okay.
So let's do song JDBC repository dot find by ID. And we'll use the saved DBO's ID. And that will hold on to as a variable, and we'll call that found DBO. And then we can assert that found DBO and then outside we'll say is present.
Present. Interesting.
Yeah, because it's an optional. And furthermore, we can then say, let's see, what do we want to look at? We want to look at the song title. So let's say extracting. Sorry, we have to do get first. So dot get. Now we can say extracting. And what we want to extract is song title. So can you hit Control P? Great, so it does have a function. Okay, so we can hand in a method handle. So it'll be song DBO : song title.
Oh, not get song
Actually,
title?
it's actually get song title, right? I forgot. This
Okay.
is a DBO. So, and then we can say is equal to our updated song title.
Did we scroll it away anywhere?
Line
We
39, so just copy it.
Yeah.
Hey there, Full Novel, doing great. Working on
Hey,
database
Novel.
stuff. All right, so what this is saying is, so we know that when we save it, we get an ID. So an ID is assigned. We take that object, we modify it, we save it. That should update the database. We should be able to then find it by its ID. It should be there, and it should have the new song title. So let's run it.
We're gonna start using Control Shift F10. Whoop. Something died.
Oh, we didn't have a default constructor. All right, let's create a default constructor.
Oh, how did you see that?
Right there, in the second to last caused by.
Failed to instantiate.
See, I'm an expert, so I am very good
parse
at
it very fast.
ignoring a lot of stuff that we don't need to look at. Yes, because I've looked at these 1,000 times. So let's go to our song DBO and create a no arg constructor. No.
Oh, nope.
You want select none.
Oh, it was selected. Right.
Yeah, because of the way that UI works, there's no way for them to make it easy to
Right.
unselect it. So
Exactly.
so okay, I guess I always forget about this because I thought the Spring Data would use the all args constructor, but I guess not. I have to go reread the docs for that.
So you're expecting it to use the constructor on 23.
Yes. But apparently it needs. I wonder if that's Spring Data JDBC specific. Well, let's run the test. Yeah, I use the suffix DBO to indicate that this is an ORM database object that represents stuff in the database and is pure data. But it's a the way I look at it is it's a more specific kind of data transfer object. It's specific for the database. All right, that worked.
Okay.
Let's do a commit.
We're getting close to break time. What do we want to say?
Added Spring Data JDBC repository. Actually, we added storing song in the database is really what we did.
Yeah, it's good to keep it not at a technical level if you can.
Yep. All right, let's commit.
Okay.
All right, so when we come back from our break, what we're going to do is implement the adapter. But before we implement the adapter, we're going to need one more method. We're going to need to add a method to find by song themes, which will require a custom query. But we'll do that when we come back.
Sounds good.
All right, so see you in a few minutes. So one of the things that I think it's really important to do is when you run into a situation like we just ran into, where you get an exception. This exception says couldn't find a no arg constructor, and so you go add a no arg constructor. The next step is learn why, because otherwise, what you end up with is code that works, but maybe not for precisely the right reason. Or maybe it just happens to work, but that's really a workaround, or it's not what you actually intended to do. And so this is how sort of cruft builds up, is because you sort of get it to work, but it might not be the working in the right way, and then later on you might regret it, or have some issues. So this is the documentation for what's called Spring Data Commons, which is sort of the main project under which then a bunch of the other relational ones sort of fall under. So this is common to all of the Spring Data projects. So basically, it tries to detect a persistent entities constructor. So basically, when it's instantiating the object to restore it from the database, it first looks to see, is there a single static factory method with this annotation? Then it uses that one. If there's only one constructor, it uses that one. And so for us, we had two constructors, and that's why it didn't use the one that I thought it would use, which is the one that had the ID in it, because it doesn't really know. And so if there are multiple constructors and none are annotated, which is our case, then it's going to want to find a no argument constructor. And so other constructors are ignored. And since it couldn't find one annotated, it's not a record. There was no argument constructor, and so it basically gave up. So we fixed it wrong in the sense of we created no argument constructor, but really we want to use that other constructor. So let's go do that.
Which route would you take? Would you go with the static factory method?
No, I'd go with the full the one we created that has all the arguments and just annotate it with persistence creator.
Got it.
So let's
go. What is
the
advantage of, or what situations would you want to have a static factory method in this?
In this situation, I don't know. I mean, I think it's more for if you are annotating domain objects. Basically, if you're not following any kind of separation of concerns architecture and you're annotating your domain object, then you probably might want a specific method that's used by your persistence and only by your persistence, and make that a factory method.
Got it. Excuse me. Which so I'll delete the default constructor.
Yep. And let's annotate that one.
The first one? Okay.
Because that's the one we wanted to use. Yep. And let's run our test again. Yeah. Voila. All right. All right. So let's amend our commit so that way we have good stuff in. Yep. And then just amend the commit. Alrighty. So yeah, we did 93, we did 94, did 95.
Did we write a couple of tests or just one test?
We wrote one test. It's fine. These are actually, let's tag this test. So let's put an @ tag on 19.5. So we want to tag the whole class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, tag. And what we want to tag it as, I just tag this as database. And I usually use my tags as lowercase, so I'm not worried about case. And let's check our run configurations. I just want to make sure that our IO free tests. So go to edit configurations because we want to actually look at the configurations. And IO free. So it's looking for not IO. So let's, I mean, we could tag our database test as an IO test if we want. Or the other option is we can concatenate some things together in terms of the tags.
Is there value in having database as a separate tag if we want to just run?
Yeah, because then you can just run the database tests
Versus all the IO tests.
Versus all the IO ones, yeah.
Got it. So that means here we...
Yeah, so there do put in an ampersand with some space around it.
Good.
And then the bang and then database. So it's basically saying all tags that are not IO nor are our database. And that's it. So just hit OK. All right.
I'm gonna run IO free just to make sure that they run fast.
Oh yeah. Test our test configuration. Yep. Wow, super fast.
Sweet.
All right, so we need to have one more test because of the special way that themes need to be found by.
Right.
So because so Spring Data, whether it's JDBC or JPA or whatever, has ways of letting you write queries as basically complex methods. So let's open up our Song JDBC repository. So maybe drag that down to the bottom. So what we'd like to do is write a method. So we could do something like, let's write a method, and we'll so so public, the return value is going to be song DBO. Actually, let's make it list of song DBO. And we can say find. And so notice that IntelliJ is offering to autocomplete. These are not methods that exist that we're overriding or implementing. These are suggestions of, hey, these are the way you can use, I forget the technical term, but it's basically the method structure, the method name structure defines how it's going to be searched for in the database. So we can say something like find by, and then we can say artist containing ignore case. Yeah.
Do we search for artists?
This is just an example. We're not going to actually use this. And song title. And then open paren. And so then what we can give it is basically two strings. And what it will do is it will generate the correct SQL select statement to do this. It will generate a, select where artist like whatever the first string is, and song title equals the next string that we pass it.
That is insanely cool.
So it's great, except it doesn't work for array fields. So Full and Alpha mentions the criteria API. And to me, it's like, why would you, if the method supports this and it generates everything else, why wouldn't I use that? Let it generate the optimal SQL. For more complex situations, we need to do something else. And so we're going to do that something else. So let's delete this because we're not going to use it. What we are going to need is find by themes.
Right.
So let's create a method. Actually, since this is an interface, we don't need to use the public.
Oh, right.
But it is going to return a list of song, DBO. And we'll call this find by theme. And what we're going to hand in is basically a theme. So string for theme. And then semicolon. Now, unfortunately, this won't work. Spring Data does not currently support arrays. So we have to write the SQL basically ourselves. So let's add a line at 8.5, an annotation that is at query. Yeah. And this takes a string. So we'll do a string. And so we'll have, basically, we're going to be writing the select statement.
Oh, interesting.
So we're going to say select star from. And what's nice is IntelliJ knows that you're writing SQL.
Yeah.
So it auto-completes. The table we want is songs, which it knows. And then we're going to say where. And this is where we're going to have the parameter replacement. So this is going to be colon theme. And that's going to equal, so space equals. And then the keyword for Postgres to search in an array column is any, uppercase. And then open paren themes. So what it's basically saying is, find me songs where this theme is in any of the array entries in this column. Now we need to tell Spring which parameter it matches theme. It can't figure it out from the variable name, so we have to annotate the string theme with an annotation. So in the parameter list, in our
in the parameter list.
In the parameter list. And so we say at param. Yep, that one. Theme in double quotes. So that theme string there matches the colon theme above. So that colon theme will get replaced by the parameter that we pass. And then it will return any and all songs that have that theme anywhere in the list of themes. It's really a bummer that it's not supported. I looked at the issue. The issue is not new. I guess there's just not enough demand for it. And since it's fairly trivial to write your own query, I guess they don't want to add it. Because really what I'd like to be able to do is say, find by theme in themes, and then let it figure out and write this. But it doesn't do that. All right, so 5G technician asks, what if the songs table had a relation? If it had a relation, if the themes were stored in a separate table, then it would figure it out, because it would, although it would depend on the structure that you define for the song. if it was an embedded list where it did the auto map, where it did the mapping on its own, then it would basically figure it out. Yeah. But generally, it would be sort of an odd structure, unless you truly wanted themes to be a top level thing. Then it is many to many, and then basically the structure of your data would totally change. We're not doing that because we're saying we're okay with the redundancy of themes in our table. And we're also currently saying that we don't care about the fact that we might misspell themes. So we're not normalizing themes either. So it would probably be better from a relational standpoint to have themes be its own table. And then you can do things like when you're adding a song, select from existing themes, and it would have somewhere to look for those. And then when you're finding by themes, you would basically do a different kind of search. But from an aggregate standpoint, it's a different structure.
I imagine at some point when we get to the point where we list, well, whether we list the potential themes for searching, at that point, maybe it would be worthwhile having a separate themes table.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That would change quite a bit, because it would change. It would change. It wouldn't change anything in our domain, but it would change our JDBC adapter and how we store that.
Right.
On the other hand, it's pretty easy. How easy would it be to find all unique themes? There's probably a way to do it, and let the database figure it out. It wouldn't be terribly efficient. So probably would not want to do that very, very often.
Right.
So Full Nova asks, why use a relational database? And my question always is why wouldn't I? Why would I not want to use one of the most powerful databases that exists, which is Postgres? More and more, I see Postgres taking on all the abilities that non-relational databases have. And why wouldn't I want to use it? I think there's again, fashion comes into play. People say, oh, I want to just store JSON, so let me go use Mongo. It's like, nope, Postgres can totally store JSON very easily, very fast, and you get all the advantage of the fact that almost every place you'd want to deploy your application supports Postgres, which is not true for non-relational databases. And so I like boring technology. Postgres is boring because it's rock solid. It works. It's not fashionable. Doesn't have venture capital behind it, pushing it and stuff like that. And I think there's from an operational standpoint, it's very well known how to operate it. And so over the years and decades, I've learned stick with stuff that unless you have a compelling reason, you should have defaults of use Postgres. You'd have to have a really good reason and prove that to use anything else. Not to say other databases aren't useful. They absolutely are. But your default should be use Postgres. And not Oracle. Decidedly not Oracle. Unless you like paying lots of money for absolutely no reason.
If you want to just throw money away.
If you want to throw money away, I have all sorts of things I can sell you. And it's not, and it's not to say that Oracle is bad. It's actually a very sophisticated, very powerful database. Is it worth the return on investment? Only you can decide.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's write a test for this to make sure that this method works.
Okay.
I think let's write a separate test. Find by theme works. These are very much one-off kinds of tests. So let's create create and write a couple of songs that have sort of overlapping themes. We could probably grab this stuff from an existing test where we test for find by themes.
Oh, not grabbed from here.
I mean, you could. I don't care. I have no preference on what you're doing.
Okay.
You just want a few songs with some
Right.
overlapping themes, and at least one song that does not have that theme.
Mojo Nixon passed away this year. Very sad.
Mm.
If you're not familiar with him, he's really funny. So this one is just money. And you said overlapping, and then one that's not. That's completely different.
Yeah. So what we want is when we search by money, it finds 2, not 3.
Gotcha. Clear that filter. And the mouse is acting up again.
Yes, there's a way to select LF endings. I don't. So I know if you look at, you see in the bottom part of the toolbar, there's a CRLF, just next to the row column indicators in the bottom right. I think if you click on that, you can change the line endings. But you also have to be careful because Git might be changing your line endings also, because that's what it does. And so, my condolences on having to think about that, because you really just shouldn't have to think about that. It's only for the current file. Let's see. I'm sure there's a parameter somewhere to change that. Yeah, I don't know what it is offhand. It may actually be reading based on whatever the current file is, in which case you probably want to modify your Git configuration, assuming you're using Git. And because it's going to be doing so most sort of out of the box Git is going to be set up to do, like, that's one of the first things I remember doing when I set up Git is the auto line feed conversion. The auto new line conversion, and so you want to just probably change that, probably on a per repository setting, because I wouldn't want my IDE to change that if Git is then going to change it again. Then you're just not going to have fun. All right, so we got 3 songs. So let's go. Yeah.
Is there a or this is probably maybe a TBD. have save not individually songs.
You
Will we
mean
ever be
save
doing that?
save bulk?
Yeah.
Uh,
I guess I
I
have to
think
look at
there is a
our
save.
usage pattern.
So I think there is a save all. We probably won't need that, but I think there is a save, an alternate version already that's built in. Yeah,
There is.
and then it takes an iterable.
So we've saved, and now we want to do a find by.
Correct. And this is
not find by.
not well. Find by theme.
Find by theme. Yeah.
Your current line. You may as well delete your current line. It's not. There's not. None of the stuff is right. The parameter's
Oh.
wrong. The return value is wrong. So you're not helping yourself. I assume you're not using 2024.1. Yeah, because if you were, IntelliJ would be suggesting full line auto completions.
Oh, nice.
Which may or may not be helpful.
So let's search for money since that gets 2.
Yep.
And then let's create a local variable, and then it would be songs or found songs.
Yep.
Found. Is it songs or songs DBO?
I think either one. Yeah.
Well, I forgot autocomplete isn't fast enough and assert that.
Yeah. That's why I have my postfix set up. So I would type found songs and then .ast, and it would surround the variable and provide autocomplete.
Oh, but you have it set up for that? It's not.
It's not.
Default.
Actually, do you have the postfix set up? Do you have your postfix plugin?
I don't think so.
No. Mike, you're behind on your plugins. You got to get the postfix plugin and the tab shifter plugin. Come on, get with it.
Postfix plugin, tab shifter.
So Stupendous Follow asks about the Java runtime version. So that was used because one of the places we were deploying to used that to switch the Java version that it would use for the build pack. We're probably not going to use that anymore because we're going to package up our own Docker image, and so then we won't be reliant on the build packs of the provider. But that's what that was for.
What do you think? Got everything? Did I miss anything?
Let's just be more precise in our assertion.
Sure. I was thinking we would grow it, but that's fine.
Yeah, we could grow it, but may as well. So we can say extracting, and we'll extract the title again. So get song title.
Oh, right.
And then we'll off of that we'll say contains exactly. And I think in any order is fine because we don't care about the order. And so we expect it to be Yellow Man and Mojo Nixon. Sorry, no, songs. Donate money and where the hell's my money?
Yeah. Is that right?
Looks right to me.
Okay. Just run this one.
Yes, just run this one. Yeah. Look at that. It worked right off the bat.
Wow, sweet.
Let's try this. Let's change money in the find by theme on 62. Let's make it a lowercase m. And then run it.
Is it currently case sensitive? Or we're
I
going to
think
find this out? This
we're
is
going
the
to find out.
experiment.
Yeah. I think it is currently case sensitive. Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we want it to be case insensitive, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a reason not to be.
Yep. So let's go fix it. How would we fix it? Do we let the database fix it, or do we just always convert to lowercase?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. But the problem, for theme, I'd rather store the theme in mixed case and display it in mixed case.
So you want to store mixed case, display mixed case, but search case insensitive. Okay.
Because I think it'll look better on the site to see mixed case.
That's the way you've been entering it in the spreadsheet. Mixed case.
Yeah, it's mostly mixed case. Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't think there's any lowercase actually.
So then we're gonna have to figure out how to do that.
Or do we just say it's mixed case? But I guess if somebody else, when we get to the point where other people enter things, we want it to be. Do we just say we expect mixed case and we want it to be unique? There's no lowercase version of it.
Say that again.
So for me, I'm going to enter mixed case, so there
Right.
won't be a lowercase.
Right.
Do we just say that's what it must be? Or if somebody, when we get to the point where we're building for outside people to contribute songs, like if their bulk thing has them all lowercase, for example.
Well, then you wouldn't accept the proposal.
Then I wouldn't accept it, yeah. Or would it search for money? We got a money that's uppercase. We'll just use that one and then change it.
I think then that would I think that would require then to choose from an existing one.
Right. Yeah, I'm okay with enforcing it being mixed case.
So
I mean, enforcing isn't the right word, but allowing mixed case.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if lower works on any. So let's try it.
Yeah, it's a cheap experiment.
Because I don't know if the function can operate on an array, but I guess we'll try it.
So lower right before
any? So lower, or yeah, no. So it's a function. So basically lower open paren any. And then close paren, and then lower around the colon theme.
Wait a second, I think I lost a quote there.
Yeah, you're missing a close paren.
I see. Got it.
And then lower around the colon theme.
Oh, over here, same lower. Okay. Run it.
It was failing. We're looking for lowercase. Yeah, let's run it. Let's see what happens.
Nope.
Yeah, so it's syntax error. So you
Syntax
can't
error.
route the any with lower. Yeah.
And yeah, take it out.
So we're gonna uh so we keep the lower on the theme. But we're gonna have to looks like what we're gonna have to do is what's called an unnest, which basically expands the array into individual items. So before the so from songs where okay, so after the where we're going to introduce basically a sub expression. So where exists,
Like that.
yep, plural.
Excuse me.
And then
Buzzing.
open paren. Delete the lower, yeah. And so here we're going to say select one. The number one from. And what we're going to do is we're going to unnest. So the function is called unnest. So un and then nest, two n's. Yeah. And that is the column name, which is themes.
In quotes.
No, it's the name of the column. No. So unnest, open paren, and the word themes, because we're already in a string.
Oh,
And then
right.
and then close that and say as theme.
One word.
As and then theme lowercase.
Ah.
So what we're saying is unnest themes into theme. And now we can do a where clause. So uppercase where. And then lower theme, that's right. And then instead of any themes, it's lower theme. Basically the variable we just extracted. And you'll need to close the paren there. Yes.
Okay.
So we have to use any because the column is not just a string; it's an array. So it's an array of strings, and so it's not a column that's searchable directly. We could, if we wanted to, combine it, but why not use the features of Postgres? This query is not database agnostic. It is very specific to Postgres. It's basically we provided the SQL template, and it's just going to execute it. And it looks like that's just an alternate for what we're doing. We might try some variations, but let's try this one. See what happens.
Okay. Passed.
All right. let's try the alternate because it looks like 5G technician and my research says that we could also use the like. So let's comment out 11. And let's write another query. And so we're going to do select star from songs where so it's also going to be lower colon theme. No, lower colon theme. Those lower.
The function lower.
And then parentheses colon theme.
Got it.
And then I like.
Really?
Yes. So I like is a case insensitive like.
Oh.
So from songs where lower theme, I like, and then we can say any. I guess we don't even have to say lower theme if it's case insensitive. Any themes in parens. I like you. We like you.
I like Ike.
Let's try that. Since we know that it should work, let's see, because this is way better.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Sweet.
Yeah, that's way better. Let's see if we drop the lower for the colon theme, because if we're saying case insensitive like, then it should be case insensitive on both sides. Let's try that. All right, that's our query.
Cool. So 11.
I think we can delete that one. Yes. Nice to know that we could do that, but we don't have to. All right.
So should we change the name to make it clear that we're also deliberately checking against different keys?
Yes, and in fact, Full Alpha mentioned we should suffix our method that we just wrote in our repository interface with ignore case to make that clear as well.
That's good.
So let's do rename there, and then we'll rename the test.
Ignore
case, yeah.
And find by work, find by theme, ignore case works?
We could say works regardless of case.
Yeah, because we're testing more than just the case part.
Yeah.
Or this. Sounds good.
I find by theme. Yeah, I guess I like is Postgres specific, and so is any. So I'm glad they work together. And this is why we're using Postgres, because it's awesome. You renamed your test, so trying to rerun the test that Nolari is going to be difficult. You can just run all the database tests and just make sure we haven't.
Well, we don't have database tests. We have.
No, just run the test. I mean, if we want to create another run configuration, we can, but we can just run the tests as a whole.
Oh, the class. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I interpreted it as run the config.
Gotcha.
For database.
Hey, Sweetie.
Hey, Sweetie.
You missed all the fun. No.
And we're ending soon.
Yes.
Sadly. I'd love to keep going, but I have to.
So let's do commit.
Okay.
And this was can now find by theme.
Sweet.
So let's go back to Jira. So that's our next step.
Actually, you said there was a three dot thing I could do. Don't
Oh, yeah.
show this one again.
Yeah, don't show again for this project. Yeah. Do we want to stop here and we'll leave the concrete adapter for next time?
Yeah, I have a pretty hard stop today
Yeah.
because I have to.
Yeah. So let's do that. So let's do a push.
Whoops. I might as well do a commit and push now since it's got the.
Yep.
I made a small change. Should I amend?
Yeah, you can amend.
And then amend, commit, push.
Yep. So we don't have a regular schedule, as Luigi nicely pointed out. There, the Discord is the best place to be notified. I try to do it somewhat in advance. Sometimes that advance notice is only half an hour, but I try to do it at least a few days in advance, as we know. So as Mike and I agree on our schedule times, joining the Discord and going into the roles channel and clicking on the alert for CodeStream alert, you'll get notified by Discord when I do that announcement. Twitch will announce it when we go live, so that will only give you like a 2-minute warning, and it's actually not 100% reliable. Oh, thanks, Jonas, for your Prime resub. 2 months. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
So that's it for today. I will likely have a solo stream tomorrow or the next day, where I'll continue with Ensembler and start thinking about the next project. But that's all for today. Anything else you want to mention, Mike?
No, I think hopefully after next week we'll be able to start doing more than once a week. Maybe we
All
can
right.
go to twice a week.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of the input. That's why we do this. We love all the chats and all the input. So thank you for doing that. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye.